As existential threats converge, the reinvention imperative has become a reality for organizations around the world. But with the magnitude of changes barreling around us, is reinvention alone enough? And what does it really take for organizations to succeed? The stakes are high for sure, but so is the awareness among today's CEOs of both the urgency to be transformative in their approach and the need to deliver sustained outcomes if their organization has to succeed in the decades ahead. Hello everyone, I am Disha Thadani and I'm back with another interesting episode of Intelligent Automation Bytes, where our panelists are going to be talking to us more about how organizations can really thrive in an age of continuous reinvention. Please join me in welcoming Sumit Srivastava, Partner and Leader, Intelligent Automation at PwC India, Sudipta Ghosh, Partner and Data and Analytics Leader at PwC India, and Mohib Yusufani, Partner, PwC US, Strategy and Leader of Digital Transformation. Beginning with you today, Sumit, as the world around us continues to change and newer disruptions reshape industries, what according to you are some of the priorities of today's CEOs from a long-term viability perspective?
So if I take references from our recent 27 CEO survey, which got published just a month back, there were some very interesting data points which I would like to refer here. One is 45% of the CEOs felt that their businesses would not be relevant 10 years from now unless they transform the way they operate. And this number increased by 6 points from a similar question which was put last year, clearly amplifying that the pace of disruption has increased. Interestingly, CEOs also perceived that there were a lot of business inefficiencies within the current routine processes and activities what they perform, to a tune of 40%, which can be taken out through efficiency models which they can drive. And the last point which I also would like to refer here is that 60% of the CEOs felt that generative AI is going to have a large impact on their bottom line and top line. Now with this as the change magnitude what CEOs actually highlighted as part of the survey, what are the priorities what we are also seeing coming out of it? So one priority what we're seeing is that a lot of organizations are looking at a holistic view towards a digital transformation, looking at people, process and technology. The second aspect is the organizations are looking at adoption of generative AI at an enterprise-wide. And the third aspect is where a lot of organizations are saying that as they are embracing these new ways of working, how they are bringing in upskilling and reskilling within their organization, not just for the employees at large, but even at the board level. So clearly the pace of disruption has increased and the business priorities are largely in line of how they are looking at driving these transformation engagements within their organization.
Thanks for sharing that with us. So Dipta, if I can continue from where Sumit just touched upon the generative AI aspect of things, the PwC survey also indicates that a lot of CEOs have agreed that generative AI will significantly change the way in which companies create, capture and deliver value in the next 3 years. What's your take on that, and how do you think generative AI can really help organizations in delivering some of the priorities that Sumit touched upon?
Sure. No, thanks, Disha. So the way I see it is that there are at least 4 interventions which organizations would like to do using this new tool called generative AI. And these 4 interventions would be, the first one would be a productivity increase. Also, when we are looking at productivity, we are also looking at how do you institutionalize knowledge within the organization. Now we have an ability where you can use a Gen AI enabled knowledge management where you are institutionalizing that knowledge, and hence it's going to obviously increase the productivity of the entire organization. The second one, what Sumit actually talked about, is disruption. Now when there is a lot of disruption, there is a lot of change, organizations need to be customer centric, and that is what the CEOs are telling us. The third thing is around innovation. Now the advantage with this kind of a technology like Gen AI is that it allows you to create new designs. And last but not the least, because we are talking about disruption, we are also talking about the risks which an organization face. Here we are talking about understanding those risks, simulating what can happen in the future by way of digital twins, looking at some of the unknown unknowns, and PwC has an award-winning product called Anomaly Detection Platform, which actually uses a combination of an unsupervised learning with a generative AI on top of it to give you those nuggets of information which a human being may actually miss. So that is something which is a great benefit which organizations can derive.
With that, Mohib, I'll come to you. Sudipta and Sumit both touched upon efficiencies, and cost efficiency is definitely a priority that a lot of CEOs are looking at delivering today. Can you take us through PwC's digital value transformation that really helps companies in managing their costs more strategically and delivering value-based outcomes?
Digital value transformation brings together three aspects. First is really looking at the business holistically and taking a business lens to it versus a technology lens. Effectively looking at how do you reconstruct your value chain, both in the front office and corporate functions or shared service operations, if you will. Second is how do you bring a multitude of technologies and stitch them together, not just one technology in and of itself. So generative AI definitely moves the needle significantly, but also bringing in some of the other tech platforms and tech landscape that you have internally within your environment. And then third is how do you, as a result of your end-to-end value chain reconstruction and looking at embedding next-gen technologies stitched together, how do you go about redesigning your operating model that result in organization design and how to deliver those products and services internally and to your clients? And then third, how do you go to the market?
Sumit, Mohit touched upon the adoption of technology at an enterprise level. I would want you to, specifically talk about Gen AI adoption and, how can companies really incorporate it as a part of their business ecosystem?
And if we classify, the four big buckets in terms of how clients are approaching the whole journey around generative AI. The first bucket I'll talk about is largely in terms of how generative AI is going to disrupt their business models and the way they are delivering services to their end clients. To the point what Mohib highlighted, to say that how you're looking at all of these aspects and doing an org redesign as well as your business transformation lens to look at the impact from an adoption perspective. The second part which organizations are saying that as I'm looking at the redesigned organization, what is my tech landscape, and tech landscape not just limited to the technology platforms, but also looking at your data strategy and the infrastructure strategy, which will play a critical role in terms of how you're building a continuous model of delivering some of these solutions within your ecosystem. The third important aspect here would be around the governance model and bringing the right kind of guardrails within the ecosystem to ensure that you are bringing a futuristic view in terms of managing the risks which may come into your organization as you are bringing in generative AI within the larger ecosystem. And the fourth aspect would be in terms of the entire upskilling and reskilling, because as you're transforming your organization into this new world of business operations, you're looking at disruptive technologies coming in, a lot of your business functions of how they are delivering services, creating products would get transformed, and they need to understand the art of possible leveraging these technologies. So clearly the four buckets which are very important, different organizations I would say are at different stages of evolution within this journey. The organizations which are looking at all of these four aspects in totality are the ones who are going to come out as strong leaders in terms of adoption from a generative AI perspective.
So thanks for sharing that, Sumit. Sumit touched upon adoption of the guardrails, while creating their generative AI strategy. What, according to you, are some of those guardrails, and how can companies really get ahead of these risks and really ensure a responsible adoption of generative AI?
No, that's a great question, Disha, and I would say it all starts with the data, because you are trying to put a very sophisticated tool on top of the data which an organization has collected over a period of time, and this is where the quality of the data, the governance around the data, the definitions of using that data in a consistent manner becomes extremely important. The other important aspect which is very critical from an AI or from a Gen AI perspective is that you are looking at creating a model which is dependent on the data, and hence any biases, any changes, any unanticipated changes in the data itself can have an impact, and that is the next layer which is very critical and important. The third aspect is about the governance, or I would say the regulation around the data, because you already have territories who have passed a number of laws, including our country in India, where you need to be careful about how are you using the data, what communications you are giving when you are using that data, and what conclusions are you drawing from there. Once you have taken care of the data itself, the second important thing from a guardrail perspective is the modeling ongoing process itself. And it kind of derives from what Mohib was saying from an overall business perspective. It cannot sit in an isolation. So you have to derive that performance of the model or the output of that model in line with your overall strategy of the organization. So that is the second piece, I would say. And the third piece, I would say, is that it doesn't stop once you have built the model and you have taken care of the data. You have to run it on an ongoing basis. And running a system like that on an ongoing basis means that you have to constantly monitor that the quality of the data and the quality of the model is as per your standards, and you have got the right processes in place which can continuously detect that and continuously enhance that, so that you are not degrading the performance going forward.
You make it sound so easy, but I'm sure it's easier said than done. Mohit, before we wrap up today's conversation, what according to you is a good measure of success of a transformation program?
Thanks, Disha. Successful transformation, as you always know, requires a lot of emphasis on three aspects. First is actually setting the overall strategy and vision of and the respective objectives of that fundamental transformation you're about to undergo. Two is defining both short-term wins and the respective results that you want to achieve in the short term, plus also the medium and long-term impact of that particular transformation. And these short-term wins and medium-term wins need to be both financial and non-financial. And then third is actually going a layer deeper on those core financial and non-financial metrics to ensure you are winning the hearts and minds of people, because that in and of itself is going to ensure sustainability and that cost doesn't creep back up again.
On that interesting note, we wrap up today's conversation. You can catch this and more of the other episodes of Intelligent Automation Bytes online. Thank you.